Warning, some topics in this video may be triggering to some. Viewer discretion is advised. This morning is something I've heavily debated on posting anywhere, much less telling anyone, because I am certain they won't believe me. To preface something before the accusations come, I do not have schizophrenia, nor any disorder that causes hallucinations. I have been diagnosed with anxiety disorders and ADHD, but that's about it. I've seen numerous psychiatrists and therapists over the years because of this. So I like to think I'm somewhat well versed in what is and what isn't a fabrication of my mind. Basically, since we entered the halfway from the year 2020, I have been hearing ringing above and around my head. At first I thought it was tinnitus, but on top of my mom telling me I have excellent hearing and me hardly ever using headphones or listening to loud noises, I've been told by the doctor that I do not have tinnitus and my ears are fine, with the ironic exception that I have lots of earwax for some reason. I eventually came across some more new age-ish web pages that mention ringing being associated with angels. Something to do with them being a higher vibration, so they sound like ringing when they speak. I also want to add that back then I saw people on Twitter reporting hearing ringing above their head too. So it made me feel a little better knowing it wasn't just me. Since there was no scientific explanation I could conclude, I finally decided to start praying for pretty much the first time in my life, then just to see what happens, and eventually, I think I began to understand what they were saying. I don't know for sure if praying somehow opened my mind up to it, but I do have an explanation given to me by these angels, who have claimed to be my guardian angels, and have been with me my entire life. I'm going to basically assume you'll go out on a limb with me, as I have with this, and tell you, God, who is actual sovereign ruler of all realities, and apparently there's more than one reality he presides over, can directly hear your prayers through his total omnipotence. He literally chooses which prayers to answer and which to not, and we cannot comprehend the reason why he doesn't honor some prayers other than accepting that it is impossible for him to make a wrong decision or be wrong. So when I prayed to understand what was going on, God granted me the ability to communicate directly with these angels. I'll admit, it's confusing sometimes because I have my normal voice in my head, but then I have this other voice that speaks, and it's easy to mix them up, which I think is why getting into a relaxed meditative state of prayer even is a thing to begin with. If your mind is all twisted up, or you're pissed off, or not relaxed, you don't really make out the message. So that's the reason that was given to me for that. I've asked other questions too to these angels, whom there are apparently two with me at all times, and gotten some answers. One of the questions was, how do I know these are really angels? The answer I got was, you can feel the love coming from me for you. You felt evil before, and you can feel I am not that. I would never hurt you or tell you to hurt anyone. Feel the love coming from me. They say my name, but I stay anonymous on Reddit, so I won't repeat personal information. Also, I'm going to add, I have both seen my skin move from an invisible touch, and I felt them physically touching me. Sometimes it's on my leg or my shoulder or my arm. It feels like a gentle squeeze you got from a parent when you were a child. I'll say that it doesn't feel freaky and really does feel loving, though that's hard to describe. I asked these angels about telling other people about them, and they basically said, you can if you want, but you are smart enough to know why. They might not believe you, and it will be frustrating. I also asked if others are experiencing this like I am, and they said, there are some, but they keep it to themselves, mostly like you do, to fear of ridicule. This all has been going on about a year now for me. I've had many conversations with them. I'm alone a lot lately, and they seem to generally only speak to me when I'm alone in a quiet. When I'm talking to people or out and about or really busy, they generally don't, or I don't notice them, which is a good sign. This is not an hallucination. As schizo hallucinations disrupt daily life, this hasn't. In fact, it's enhanced my life mostly. These angels helped me to stop drinking so much and start working out. In fact, I've gotten in really good shape this year. I'm told by the angels that God poured out His Spirit on the earth a lot the past year in response to the satanic agenda behind COVID-19. Yeah, it is. And if I've lost you here, then you should probably stop reading and move on, because I really don't feel like arguing about that. This post is already a giant wall of text, and I might just wasted my time, but I couldn't find another place to really share this, and I needed to get this off my chest. So I'll stop here and share more if anyone shows an interest. Thanks for reading all this. This is my first post on Reddit, so bear with me. Unfortunately, I don't remember this, as I was too young, but I was told that when I was about 2 to 3 years old, I had an imaginary friend named Michael, and I would talk to him frequently. One at my aunt's house, she asked me who I was talking to, and I just replied, Michael. She's like, oh, okay, what are you guys doing? I replied, he's looking for his mommy. I need to help him find his mommy. Apparently, my aunt got so freaked out and left the room to tell my grandmother. Apparently, about 20 years before I was born, I had a 5-year-old cousin that died in a car accident. My aunt and grandmother were in the car, but they survived. His name was Michael, but nobody ever talks about him or what happened that day, so there's no chance of me ever hearing his name before. My family is a Christian family that doesn't believe in ghosts or spirits, and they don't want to believe this either. But my grandmother told me when I was about 15, the farmhouse has been with my family since we came here from Germany in the 1800s. Many people have died and been born in that house, but I've always felt like a presence in the house. I feel like I'm always being watched, and would always hear footsteps going up and down the stairs in the hall. There is this mirror that I'm pretty sure is original with the house, if not original, over 100 plus years old, that is on the wall at the top of the stairs. The mirror isn't very clear anymore, and I avoid looking into that mirror at all costs when going up the stairs, because I'm always afraid of what I might see in it. I'm not the only person that feels this way about the mirror. I'm not sure why it's still there, because it freaks everyone out. You have to pass it to get to the only bathroom in the house, but I suppose it's one of the only heirlooms left. As a kid, I played with my grandpa's binoculars, and I would look around the room with them. There's 2 old portraits in the formal dining room of a man and a woman. I'm not sure who they are, but when looking through the binoculars, I saw one of the portraits' eyes move. I quickly dropped the binoculars and left the room. In the house that I live in now, about 2 weeks in living here, I saw a shadow figure in the shape of a man in a trench coat and top hat. It scared me so bad and got very emotional. My husband had no idea what was wrong, and he didn't see anything. I hadn't told him about my past, but he was adamant that I tell him what was wrong. So I told him what I saw and my past, and luckily he believed me. It's been about 3 years into living here, and I haven't seen the shadow figure again. But things fall off my bookshelf for no reason, and there are weird sounds in the house that even my animals wake up out of a dead sleep and go to investigate. I don't know how to deal with this or what to do. Any advice is appreciated. I feel some sort of weird connection and interest in the dead and spirits, even though it has been very taboo in my family. I don't know where this came from or why. I can't really explain it. Communicating with the dead scares me. I don't want to if I don't have to. But at the same time, if someone is stuck or scared on the other side, I feel a sense of something like it's my duty to help them. Spirits, ghosts, paranormal, whatever you want to call it, is something that I think about daily, whether I want to or not. They come to me in my sleep. It's something that doesn't leave my mind. Other online people tell me not to try to communicate with them, that it's normally something evil trying to get my attention, and I may open up something that I can't turn off, and I'll hear or see spirits forever and they won't go away. Any advice, thoughts on encounters are appreciated. Thanks for taking the time to read this. One day I was dumb enough to try a weird-ass thing from the internet. I thought that it's cool and would spice up my night. Yeah, I'm such a weirdo. Oh boy, now I just want to block those memories because I don't want those things to come back. Anyway, I started with this sound. It's so weird to describe, and it's the freakiest. So it's like the sound of vibrations or ripples through the air, and you can feel it in your bones. The sound at first was really faint, you can barely hear it, but it got progressively worse. It became so loud. Then I started seeing things, then sleep paralysis, then night terrors. I was scared of sleeping for months. I was thinking about it each day, each night, each moment of my life. I was barely able to do anything useful or productive throughout my day. I was barely able to maintain focus. When I try to pray, I will just zone out and start thinking about something else, mostly like this things. Anyway, after some stuff, I was finally free. I discovered that the less you think about them, the less they can manifest in real life, and the less they can harm you. I really don't know how to explain it. And before you say it's hallucinations or obsessions, believe me, that's not the case. In my late 20s, I got a position as a chef in a professional kitchen. And as some of you may know, there are always some characters that work, BOH. There was one guy, E, who was around my age that immediately gave off woohoo vibes. Super into alchemy, numerology, religions, meanings, and symbols. Stuff that was very out of my wheelhouse. But I enjoyed listening to his ramblings. Soon after starting my job, I moved into a huge house that was built in the 1920s. That had been recently renovated and split into 2 apartments. The upstairs where I lived, and the downstairs where no one lived. It was definitely a weird layout, but it was huge for the price. A great location, and I loved the quirkiness of it. There was a grand front staircase and a back staircase that ended up at a little mini door that led into the backyard. Random doorways. Lots of twists and turns. Old fragile French doors, a clawfoot tub, weird cubby holes, a big deck off of one of the bedrooms, and tons of old windows, even in the closets, only located in OKZ. Around that time I was also just beginning to get into wine. I knew absolutely nothing about it, but figured as a chef I should have some knowledge, and would grab a random bottle every Monday to try it out the following Friday. This is relevant for later. I had only lived in my place for about 2 full days at this point, when E came up to me during the middle of our shift and said that I was going to get a visit tonight. Thinking he was trying to invite himself over to hang out, I jokingly pressed, "Oh yeah? By who?" You? His face showed zero emotion, and he just muttered, "Lilith," and walked off. I sat there for a second. Thought, I don't know a Lilith. Never recall even hearing the name before. Does she work here? Eventually I just brushed it off as another weird rambling from E and went about the rest of my shift. We finished up, and we got out around 3 p.m. and I head home to kick off my weekend with a nice hot meal and a glass of wine. I walked through the front door that was self-locking once shut, but the stairs through the second front door, yes really, and then head down the long hallway to my bedroom. That was the very back room at the opposite end of the house. I go in and I change, and I'm finishing up, decided that I'll do takeout for dinner. I order some food from a Greek place just 2 blocks away, hop in my car, and I'm back home within 10 minutes of me leaving. I sit on my couch and enjoy my meal, end up cracking open a bottle of wine, and started a movie. After only a few minutes, I get a little chilly. Lots of windows, I tell ya. And I head towards my bedroom to grab some socks and a blanket. I can see the door to my bedroom from the couch, and it was shut, just as I had left it. I could not believe what I saw when I opened the door. My dresser, a 5-foot-tall heavy wood antique dresser that was once up against the back of the wall, was now on the ground. Not only was it on the ground, but it had somehow turned a complete 180 degrees to where the drawers were facing up, and all of the contents, my clothes, some art pieces, etc., were thrown everywhere all over the room. I couldn't move. I don't even think it was fear at that point. It is such an impossible scenario that I was staring at that my brain wasn't processing it. Eventually, I snapped back to reality and freaked out. How the hell did this happen? I would have heard it. It had to have happened in the literal 10 minutes I was gone grabbing my food. How did it flip? That's impossible. It would be one thing if it just fell over, but in order for the drawers to be facing up, my spine ran cold. Someone did this. Someone angry. Someone still in my house. But the door self-locked. But what if it didn't this time? I called my boyfriend who lived on the street to come over now. He was there within minutes, and we proceeded to search the house. Every closet, every cubby, the back staircase, the little door. Everything was in its place. Everything just as I had left it. All access to the outside locked and bolted. I couldn't process it. Make no sense. Why just a dresser in the very back? Most complicated room to get to and nothing else. Still had no answer. I just shut myself down, tried to be as pragmatic as I could in the situation, and began cleaning up the mess. My boyfriend helped as the dresser was too heavy for me to lift alone, and then decided to stay the night to help calm the nerves I was trying to ignore. After finishing up, we settled down on the couch to finish my movie, and finally have a glass of wine. I poured mine and handed the bottle to my boyfriend. He remarked that the label was sort of creepy looking, with the imaginary of a winged woman with crow's head. I could swear. I looked over and noticed the name of the bottle, Lilith. I remember years way back before I reached the age of 10, these greenish polygon-looking men the size of toy army packs with different soldiers in multiple stances. However, unlike the toy soldiers whose feet are attached to a plate to help them stand up, these tiny little figures could move like us. They'd always be very faint, and I have to adjust my eyes to the darkness to see their ghostly outlines. I pretended to be a dragon and play with them. If I pressed my thumb on one of them, they'd appear to be crushed, smashed, though I'd never actually fell them. All I could ever do is see them. Their bodies were like see-through, like a greenish grid representing every limb in their head. They made no sound ever, and anything they did, they'd all group up on one bed in maybe the 20s mass every night to do the same thing with me. They weren't the only ones that visited. There were always this huge grid figure, way smaller to the tiny as heck ones, as tall as an adult, would just hang around near the closet or wall. I was so young and was more in awe seeing these tiny people. None of it ever scared me. I'm wondering if anyone out there can recall these things. Long story short, a demonic presence in my house. I live in a travel trailer, and it is scaring the life out of me. Seriously, I've been staying with my mom for the last week, but it's time for me to go back to my trailer, and I'm scared. I've had many encounters with ghosts, shadow people, and other various entities in time. Sometimes, they are scary, but nothing has ever felt like this before. When I first encountered this demonic presence in my trailer, I instantly knew that it was dangerous. This is the worst paranormal entity I have ever experienced in my life. I tried to commit suicide at the very end of November after my hospital stay. I stayed with my mom for 2 weeks. When I got back to my trailer, that's when it all started. My suspicion is that the extreme negativity energy I put out at the time of leading to my action, and the action itself essentially invited the demon in. It has not followed me to my mom's. I have been scared here, but scared OF encountering the presence. Not necessarily experience it here. I stopped by my trailer today, and it was instantly clear there's something disturbing presence in there still. I theorize it is confined to my trailer and does not follow me elsewhere. I could go into detail about what's happening, but this post is asking for help on how to expel it. If anybody is interested in details, I'll add an edit to this post or comment with the details. Long story short, it is very clear to me this is a demonic presence, nothing else. I'm moving back into my trailer tomorrow morning. I am very nervous. I have some witchy friends that I have confided in who are going to help me with the following plan. Salt every entrance, windows, and the door. Open windows and sage the interior of the trailer. Should I include the exterior? Draw multiple witch knots and hang above every window and door. On Friday, today is Wednesday, I moved home Thursday. My friends will come stay the night and we'll create a witch's bottle and place it in the appropriate place on the property. For comfort, I will be leaving all lights on throughout each night. This has not helped with expelling the presence whatsoever, but it helps me feel more comfortable. If anything else gets overwhelming, I have a key to my friend's house and can come stay the night anytime. But I want my house back. I don't want to keep running. Does anybody have anything else I could possibly do? I am practically afraid of the period of the time between moving back home and when my friends came over to perform the witch's bottle. I know the demonic presence feeds on fear, and I try to control myself best as I can. But the bottom line is that this is the most terrifying paranormal experience I have ever endured, and it's hard not to be scared. I feel unsafe, literally physically unsafe, but I want my freaking home back. Any additional things I can do are welcome. I will do anything and everything to get rid of this. And if everything I do is not enough, I'll know it's time to bring in the big guns. Whatever that ends up being, a priest, I don't know anything. Thanks everyone. Please wish me well. Edit. I've been asked a few times to share what's been going on, so here's the short version. Before I encountered the spirit, I noticed a foul smell when I got home after hospital staying with my mom. That smell, up until I left to go stay with my mom again, only got worse and worse and worse. The smell was of rotting flesh. I spent endless days trying to locate and solve the problem. emptying and disinfecting septic tanks, searching for carcasses, replacing my propane gas leak detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. The list is very long. Started off with what I thought was just a spirit, and it could very well still be the spirit causing these problems and not a demon. I had just gotten home and laid down in bed, and I felt someone patting my head very physically. I've known many spirits and was not scared, though it's been a while since I've encountered one. Next, something a little smaller than a tennis ball hit me square in the throat. It sort of hurt and startled me. At that point, I stated, "You're welcome here, but you need to be nice to me, etc." This was about 4:30 p.m. on 12/22/20. The spirit was pretty friendly after that. She spoke and sang to me, sometimes within my skull, and I could see where in my skull she was, and other times speaking externally as if she were another person in the room. Not quite as solid and clear as another person, but something close to that. She remained friendly. She showed me a vision at one point that struck me as odd. Somebody pulling a stiff, dead black cat out of the drawer. When I went to inspect the cat, it reached out a paw and dug its claws painlessly into my forehead. I strongly believed this spirit was here to help me. In short, her whole thing was to be in the present moment and be mindful. I welcomed her presence. She actually told me her name was Tajel. In a roundabout way, she asked me to leave her a physical offering. I started to get suspicious. I ended up online and through some reading realized that she might be being nice to me in order for me to fully invite her in. I decided against the offering. At this point, she grew very angry and violent. She was throwing things around, now not in the physical world. It's hard to explain. I could see the things being thrown around in my mind, but the noises it made crashing against the wall, etc., were very audible, as if they were happening in our world. I grew very, very scared. I ended up on the Hinduism subreddit seeking help. A mantra meant to ward off evil spirits was recommended. I was linked to a YouTube video where this mantra was chanted repeatedly for 3 hours. I turned it on. Everything initially grew much worse. I was petrified, but eventually it faded into nothing. It stopped. I fell asleep. I woke up an hour later and the chanting video had ended. At this point when I woke, words can't even do it justice. It was overwhelming, absolutely, completely enveloped by an evil presence. I grew up in a Christian home, though I'm no longer religious, and can only describe this presence as demonic. It no longer felt like Tajel, the spirit. This was something else, and I immediately felt in severe danger. This lasted all night. I was paralyzed with fear so much that I couldn't sit up to turn a light on. I couldn't look past the end of the bed for fear of seeing this entity. When I closed my eyes, I would see it behind my eyelids. A sort of generic devil appearance, tall, thick, big, curved horns on his head. Completely black. My trailer is heated with a propane furnace. The tank I was using ran out in the middle of the night, and I was too scared to even get up and change tanks, so I froze all night. This type of experience repeated most nights, up until I fled to my mom's house. I started sleeping with every light on in the trailer. Helped me feel a bit more comfortable, but did not do anything to relieve the fear or chase off the entity. Went back to stay with my mom, though I felt fear at her house. It was fear of encountering this entity. The entity did not follow me. After about a week, I returned back to my trailer just to check on it. The smell was completely gone. This was Wednesday, 1/5/21. I decided I would move back in the following day. I will note, however, that when I stepped in to check the place out, I felt a very disturbing presence, like hair on the back of your neck standing up. Still, I am stubborn and did not want to be chased away from my own home. The plan was to return home remained. Today is Thursday, 1/6/21. Came around while I was gathering my things from my mom's house, and on my way home, a few strange things happened. It could not be coincidence. The lights began flickering at my mom's house while I cleaned. When I got in my truck, the stereo was acting up and would not allow me to play the hyped up music I wanted to play to build confidence. Halfway home, a garbled voice came through the speakers for just a few moments, even though I had turned the entire stereo off. When I parked outside my trailer, I sent a text to my witchy friends about what had happened. Right before I went to open the door to get out, the stereo suddenly turned on, playing my music full blast. Unloaded my stuff at home, no smell whatsoever. I then left to go buy the ingredients for my ritual. Got home, and to my utter horror, the smell is returning. It's exactly as it was before. Not super strong, but absolutely noticeable. Downright terrified me. Last time, it just got stronger and stronger as the days went on. I lit an incense. I will do the rituals next. Every time I catch a strong whiff of the smell or begin to get scared, I have taken commentators' advice and have begun speaking out loud to the entity and asserting that it is not welcome here, that this is my home, etc., etc. Update 1622. In the late evening, I performed the planned rituals. There was some spookiness and fuckery, but I am proud to say I remained confident. The smell disappeared, but I was skeptical, as I'd been using sage, incense, etc. When I went to close the windows and found myself too scared to look outside, it sincerely felt like whatever had been in my trailer was now outside, in the dark, looking in. I was too afraid to even open my door to let my dog out for the rest of the night. I left the lights on all night. I felt very unsettled but confident that it was no longer inside my trailer and that I was safe. 1722. Around noon I started to notice the smell again. I'd catch a very strong whiffs of it, and sometimes it would linger. In my anger and confidence I stood my ground, told it I am not afraid of it, etc. The smell came and went. It's 7:15 p.m. right now, and I haven't smelled it in several hours. Tonight my friends are coming over to perform another ritual to solidify last night's. Back when I was in my late teens, I moved out of my home, out of town, then rented a room for some couple. The woman didn't work, but her partner did, so she had lots of time on her hands and tried to control everything in the house, including me. I was working 2 jobs while studying. The woman, who literally had no life besides from trying to mess up other people's lives, started doing weird stuff. I woke up to find her watching me sleep. She stole my sunglasses, killed my fish, etc., all in the name of being a c***. She tried bossing me around and trolling me. Though she would disappear every full moon to apparently get nude and dance with her coven in the mountains, she claimed to be a witch, despite my interest in spirituality and tarot. I don't believe in witches or witchcraft. I think the spells work on a belief system that causes a domino effect of either positive or negative things occurring. Anyways, I decided I had enough of tolerating her bullshit and moved out. That resulted in her stalking me via turning up at my workplaces and staring at me for hours. I reported her to the police. Then she tried to cyberstalk me via Facebook and phoning me 1,000,000 times. After moving into a new place, I would wake up in the night to see something standing in the corner of my room. Yet whenever I got up or turned the light on, it disappeared. Hence, I assumed I was dreaming. Eventually, it started standing at the foot of my bed, but again, whenever I tried to get up or turn on the light, it would vanish. One night, I woke up to it standing there like usual, but this time I could see a creepy woman's face on it. It was smiling at me. I said, "Fuck off," and it vanished. For a while, I didn't see the thing, but it started coming up with scratches all over my body. I had no idea where they were coming from. I would find them on my arms, chest, hips, and thighs. One night I woke up and I ran to the bathroom mirror because I thought something bit me, but only to find scratches on my shoulders and back, like someone just clawed me. I checked my bed for anything that could scratch me, even visited a doctor who asked me if I was self-harming. I wasn't, and I couldn't figure out where these scratches were coming from. The last incident occurred one night when I was half asleep and rolled over to my side. I felt air on my face originally. I ignored it until I felt a big gust and air directly into my face. I opened my eyes to come face to face with this rotten, bloated, dead-looking woman. She looked wet, like someone killed her and then left her in some water to rot. Her body was coming out from underneath the bed where her head was propped up near my face. I actually screamed and was too scared to get off the bed. I covered my face with a blanket and then started saying prayers and waited until morning. After that, it never came back and the scratches healed. It scares me to think about, but I do wonder if it lived under my bed for a period of time and was scratching me from underneath. As to where it came from, again, I don't believe in spells. Whatever it was wanted to pose as a female. I think it was part of my loser ex-housemate, like a malevolent manifestation of spite. I was never a guy that really believed in paranormal situations or anything, but something was very strange happened to me this morning, and it still sends shivers down my spine. People may say I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but this is what it felt like to me. I am a 21-year-old with no kids, and it's important to know from this story, so I went with my dog for a walk this morning and was about to cross the street when I noticed a girl about my age staring at me from the other side, sort of parallel to the one I was on. I first did not think a lot about it and kept going. Then I saw how she crossed the street to come to me, the one I was walking on while I was staring at her. We crossed ways, and when she was closer, I could see her expression, and it was something like pity and nostalgia. I felt like she knew me from somewhere. Well, we crossed paths, but of course, I did not stop to stare at her back. I just kept going. Then I turned to look at her once more, and she was still standing on the same spot I walked past her 5 seconds ago. And she was looking straight in my face with the same expression of pity. I continued walking, and after a few seconds I turned again, and she was still there staring at me with the exact same expression as last time. I turned back to look at her before I continued my walk with my dog. I don't know why or how, but a thought came directly into my mind without any previous context. In my head, I was convinced that the girl was my daughter from the future, and she was looking at me that way because I died and she was missing me. The whole day I am still really freaked out by the experience. And I thought about it. Look, my dad died when I was 7. And the night of his death, my mom dreamed he came into her dream and talked to her. He said he is okay and that she doesn't have to be worried about him. What if in my daughter's timeline I died and this moment was me in her dream, seeing her for the last time like my father saw my mother for the last time in her dream? My father seemed to recognize my mother in the dream, and somehow I had that instant thought, without previous context, that the girl was my daughter. I recognized her instantly. I get shivers down my spine while I'm writing this. Like I said, I never had to do with such things. I am an atheist. I don't believe in God. I've never believed in ghosts, but I have no explanation for this. Maybe I'm just crazy. I would like to read some opinions, please.